Hello, friends. A very warm welcome to all our viewers watching us on Facebook right now. This is episode 2 of the Shiv Nadar Foundation Conversations, a series of thought provoking and engaging chats with some of the most engaging and celebrated personalities from across India and the world. My name is Nikhil Soni, and I'm a host for today. I will be joined today by veteran vocalist and playback singer Shubha Mudgal. Shubhaji's music is something we've all enjoyed over the years, especially hits like Ali More Angna and Apke Savan, uh, songs we've enjoyed and danced to over the last few years. Beyond her regular forays into pop and Bollywood, a lot of her fans would also relate to her as a prominent and celebrated Indian classical vocalist and an expert of art forms such as Dadra, Thumri, and Khayal. A highly decorated personality, Shubhaji is the recipient of a national award for Best Non-Feature Film Music Direction, which he won in 1996, as well as the coveted Padma Shri awarded by the Government of India in 2000. Uh, Shubhaji, welcome to the Shiv Nadar Foundation Conversations. It's an honor to have you with us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me and making it possible to connect with so many people even during the lockdown. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Uh, we'll keep this session as interactive as possible. I have a few questions for you, which I'll keep asking you, and we will also encourage our audience to ask questions on the live stream. We will pick out the best ones and sort of shoot them over to you. Uh, it's a session where we want to hear your stories, your anecdotes, interesting experiences from your life, things which we can all as fans and learners take from you. Let's hope people enjoy the session. Uh, let's sort of dive right into the question which most people, your fans, have on the top of their heads. These are unprecedented times. This is a world which none of us had imagined a month ago, but here we are. Uh, what we want to know is how do you, during these days, keep the musician in you engaged?
Well, actually, strangely, isolation is not an unfamiliar situation for musicians and for artists. Because, really speaking, it is in isolation that they spend a lot of their time working on their craft, technique, thinking about their artistic endeavors. So,
Mhm.
isolation really isn't unfamiliar to artists. But that kind of isolation is a very wonderful, fertile kind of isolation, because that's when you come up with new ideas, that's when you try new experiments, and
Right.
that's when you prepare things for making them, for sharing them with the public.
Mm.
This isolation that we are facing today is actually of a very different sort, where breaking that isolation would not mean that we would come up with wonderful ideas. It would, in fact, cause great harm to ourselves and to various people. So, this lockdown is really unprecedented. And for artists too, it is a situation which forbids them from really interacting with their audiences unless there are platforms such as the one you have created, where we
Mm.
can, despite the lockdown, really meet our people who love music, who love the arts, and interact with them.
So let me just connect this very response, the last part of the response, with my next question. As part of our work with HCL Concerts, we interact with a lot of young and veteran artists like yourselves, and we've often felt that eventually it's the chemistry between an artist and their audience that keeps them motivated, that keeps them sort of continuing to work hard and create new music. Uh, Given the situation, with the absence of this most important factor, uh, what kind of an impact does this have on artists, especially the young ones?
Well, to be honest, there is no artist who is going to be untouched by this. Like every other segment of society, let me be very candid and honest, this is going to hit us all in a big way.
Yeah.
And also, the uncertainty of when things will improve is something that is going to cause anxiety. There are going to be people who are going to be depressed about the situation. There are people who are going to face very many challenges. But
True.
I think what perhaps young people who are always, you know, very ready to take on challenges, and if
Mm.
they're creative people, if they're artists, then artists have always been creative, and not just creative, but they've made it possible for us to see how adaptable they are to different situations.
Yeah.
So over generations and centuries, artists have adapted to different kinds of circumstances and have adjusted to new technology. And I'm pretty sure that while the challenge is not something that we should sort of brush off and say, hey, everything is going to be fine once again very, very soon. No, we have to take the challenge head on and say, yes, it is a huge challenge. It is going to be full of struggles and conflicts, but let's see how we can use our creativity to actually overcome these challenges.
Mm. It's in fact a pertinent point you make, the bringing up of technology, and also that this could possibly have a much more lasting effect than any other situation in history. Uh, Sort of also brings me to my next question. Talking about technology now, when we sort of work professionals are working from home, we are surrounded by technology. In fact, more technology than usual. uh, Tools that help us stay connected with our peers, with our seniors, with leadership, tools that help us sort of work seamlessly despite being remotely located. Uh, as a musician, or in the wider ecosystem of music and artists, what sort of tools do artists use, say, uh, in times like these to continue to stay connected with their audiences or to compose and record new music?
It is possible. In fact, for years it has been possible for artists to really share files. I've done several tracks with young musicians from across the world where I've never met the artists,
Oh,
and
wow.
I've just shared. I've just dubbed on their tracks and sent them a file, and they've added other instruments, other vocals, recitation, etc., on those tracks and shared them back with me. So for
Hmm.
years it has been possible, really, for decades it has been possible to do that. However, I think what is important now, I mean, today we're right now the lockdown has been for announced for 21 days. In those 21 days, if as a teacher I'm unable to meet my students at all, that's a very big
Hmm.
gap. We
Yes,
may
yes.
have questions, even if we don't sing. I think it is necessary to talk to each other, to comfort each other, to know that we care for each other. And I think technology really plays a big part in that. I have, started using various applications to be able to teach online. And that really makes it possible for me to not have such a long gap of not meeting my students. At the same time, I'm wondering when technology will improve. For example, right now it's not possible for me and a student in another city or in another part of the city to sing together. There
Hmm.
is a lag in the time, so we
Right.
can't really sing together. I'm wondering when technology will overcome that and how easy it will be for that technology to become accessible to all of us. At the same time, I've been using technology and apps. Let's say one of the apps that I use very often is SoundCloud. So when
Okay.
I ask a student to send me a recording of a rag that I've taught them,
Hmm.
and it allows me, SoundCloud allows me to add my comments at particular moments when I want to
Okay.
suggest something. When I say I don't agree with your interpretation of the rag here, or perhaps you should not use this word for so long or for such an elongated time. So I can add those comments at exactly the point where the mistake has been made. And I'm hoping that someday some developer will come along and even give me a second track to add voice notes. But till then, I'm using this.
Perfect. Perfect. Uh, we have questions that have already started coming in from people who are watching us live. And I would request viewers to keep posting questions. We'll keep picking out the best ones. Uh, I have one question which may not be directly related to what we were talking, but it's very important. Uh, we are fans of classical music. We support classical music to the best of our capacities, like you as a senior artist too. Uh, how can we as fans support artists? Uh, and I want to talk about the younger lot, which will sort of have the severest impact in this hour of crisis, with the lack of concert opportunities, with the lack of interactions. How can we as a community help artists like these?
You know, for an artist, first of all, the most reassuring thing I think is to know that there are people who care about them.
Hmm.
So, if you have, I know that the foundation is already hosting some concerts with a lot of musicians. So, even the fact that a lot of people register to listen to those concerts is a very reassuring space for an artist to be in, to know that 1,000 people, 2,000 people, more people are willing to listen, knowing that at this point of time you can't really have your entire ensemble, you cannot have your accompanying musicians with you, but despite that, when people express a desire to listen to you, you know that you have an audience. I think it's also necessary to not just be a silent audience, but also be perhaps an audience that says, asks, what would you like, and if
Hmm.
there is a subscription based kind of a concert, that is virtual concert that is done, I
Right.
think subscribing to those subscriptions would be very welcome, because finally artists also have to have the means and the resources. They can't live without sustenance. So I think it is very important for us. We tend, I know that the foundation doesn't charge people for the concerts that it organizes, but perhaps now is the time for audiences also to say to artists that, okay, perhaps we can't afford huge tickets, but maybe subscriptions, maybe some sort of reassurance that not only are you there, not only are you giving them your ear, but you love them with your heart, and so you would really want to take care of them.
Right. And in fact, more questions coming in. Just in fact, happy to share we have over 150 people watching us right now. I mean, it's a fantastic start. We're just 10 minutes into the session. Uh, I have another question from this is from Kamlesh Kumar Arya. Uh, he wants to understand how how has been your journey so far as an artist, as a person. I'm sure you would have faced tremendous challenges at different parts of your life. What has been the key to overcoming those challenges? What do you feel was the most important aspect that you sort of tackled and that helped overcome those challenges in your life?
I'd like to thank Kamlesh ji for joining us and also for the question. Yes, like every artist, I too have had several challenges. And one of the things that I think every artist faces constantly is is to sort of to face the challenge of criticism. Not everybody likes every artist's work. So there will always be people who say, I don't like what you're doing, or I liked your Apke Sawan better, uske baad aapne kuch nahi kiya. Where
Hmm.
the hell
Hmm.
are all the new Apke Sawans? And I think it's important for the artist to know what they want to do, to make the music that they believe in making, not be repetitive, and also be able to face constructive criticism as and when it comes, and not be shaken by criticism that doesn't really have any meaning. I mean, why would an artist want to keep repeating the same sort of song?
Hmm.
Or the same sort of work. So I think it's important for an artist to keep refreshing, to keep looking at their own work. And I think it's very important for them to know that criticism can be constructive and not be sort of really depressed or feel frustrated because perhaps some other artist has more concert opportunities, a bigger Instagram fan database, or whatever. You have to be comfortable in your own skin, and it is your audience that really helps you understand that. For me, I have been very fortunate, I would like to say, and I say this at each opportunity that I get, that my family has been most supportive without being doting. They are my critics as well, but their criticism is very welcome. And I also feel my gurus have been very generous with me, and my audiences have really given me the chance to try new kinds of things and haven't said, "Oh, you were a classical singer. I'm never going to hear a popular song that you sang." On the contrary, they've also said, "Oh, you've sung Apke Savan. I'm willing to listen to a Kabir bhajan that you've sung. I'm willing to listen to Thumri that you've sung." So I think this openness on the part of the audiences has also really helped me in my journey as an artist.
Great, great to hear. Great to hear. And so, continuing with your experience in the music industry in India. In fact, I have another question. This is by Vaibhav Bujraja. Weber wants to know, do you feel, you being an indie musician over the years, do you feel indie music, independent music is making a comeback in India? Because we're seeing a lot of young, independent guys sort of bursting onto the scene, courtesy Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Uh, is the scene evolving towards better things? And if yes, is the audience taste also, in your opinion, getting more discerning? Or was it always like that and social media sort of helped bring it out?
It's difficult to generalize, but by and large, I think that yes, the indie music scene is present. More and more independent artists, and when I say indie artists, normally in common usage, at least in India, indie music is supposed to be independent bands that are making non-film music.
Hmm,
However, I really take the term to be artists who have been working independently, and that includes artists across genres. That means I'm an as much an indie artist, although my work is primarily with classical music, or
right,
an artist who sings qawwali and is not employed, let's say, with a company or a music company, is an independent artist, and an
right.
independent qawwali artist. So
Hmm,
I think, fortunately for us, uh, diversity in India has always flourished, and I hope it continues to flourish even with music and the arts. I hope that we keep getting to hear the many countless kinds of music and the countless artists who are working and creating music in different parts of the country. Having said
right.
that, independent music really received a big thumbs up when technology made it possible for us to start producing our work independently and distributing it, thanks to
Hmm,
internet technology. And I think
true.
that was really empowering in a lot of ways. Now, unfortunately, I feel that many of those spaces that the internet had opened up are now actually um, also controlled by the market. So, I mean, let's say on a video streaming platform, do you think an independent artist can afford to get banner space? No way.
Hmm,
Do you think on
true.
any other social media, do you think they will be able to pay for getting? That's not possible. So I think the very aspect of social media and internet technology that once empowered artists has now, and I understand that those platforms too have to raise money, and
Hmm,
they've become giants, but the artists who really needed them perhaps are still struggling.
right, right. Another interesting question. This is by Pooja Verma, and I asked this to sort of relate it to what you were just mentioning. So there is a strata of artists, the younger ones, who possibly cannot afford banner space and ads and promotions on platforms like YouTube and Facebook. But for artists who are well established, uh, who have caught on to the digital wave and are publishing digital content regularly, are artists thinking about ways to monetize this in the long run or in the short run?
Well, yes, I think younger artists are very well versed with technology and with the many opportunities that social media, internet technology offer. But I think a large part of the Indian musician community still needs to look at that very carefully. Although we are everybody has Facebook accounts, everybody has Instagram accounts. But I think perhaps one of the things that we consider is how to use all of this in a manner that is comfortable for the artist.
Hmm,
So when somebody says, goes live with, let's say, a guitar, and they sing in an Instagram live video, that's fine. But what about, let's say, a Dhrupad singer who would
Hmm.
require a lot more duration and would also perhaps require equipment which he or she may not be familiar with? I
Hmm.
think we all have to discuss various things and find out what are the kind of microphones that would be good for our voices, for tanpuras, for surbahar, for sitar, for sarod. And those artists who are interested in all of this are really
Hmm.
broadcasting, monetizing, and making good use of all these platforms. Those who are not may just feel a little left out. And for that reason, I feel it's important for all of us to rally together and create awareness about all these things. The very fact that their work can be monetized, how to
Hmm.
monetize it, and how perhaps a little helping hand and a bit of hand holding is required.
Yes, yes, it's a pertinent point. A bit of handholding from outside the music industry, support in whatever manner, I'm sure can sort of energize the whole ecosystem. Yes. Uh, I have a lot of questions coming in, but I thought why not just sort of take a little break from the questions. Fans have also been asking, can we hear Shubhaji's voice for a few minutes? Can you sing a little something for you? Me
Yes.
included, all your fans, we're waiting for
Yeah. So let me try and sing something for you.
it. Sure.
आई सावन की बहार, आई सावन की बहार, मोरे बार बलमो, आई सावन की बहार, मोरे बार बलमो, हो मोरे बारे बलमो, बारे बलमो, आई सावन की बहार, मोर बारे बालमो, आई सावन की बहार.
Wow, wow. I'm sure people enjoyed it. I loved it. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
Uh, let's sort of jump back to the questions. We sort of spend a good time uh, understanding how you're spending time today, how what the artist community is up to these days, how technology is playing a role in sort of democratizing access to distribution. Uh, Continuing with your journey as a musician, I recall you have mentioned on various forums about the difference between being an observer and a learner as the most important part to unlocking your potential and unlocking eventual greatness. Uh, this sounds very relevant to not just a musician but to every person in the world in whatever profession he or she is. Can you elaborate a bit on this difference and some anecdotes from your life?
Well, let's say perhaps for many of you who are much younger than I am, you will find it difficult to believe that there was a time when people didn't use laptops and computers and mobile phones and smartphones, etc. But
Hmm.
I come from a generation where, when we went for talim, for training to my guru, he would always ask us to memorize things. All compositions were memorized. We were made to internalize compositions, and in fact, Guruji would often say, in Allahabad, when I used to go for my lessons, Pandit
Hmm.
Ram Ashray Jhaji would say, "अ, तुम लोग तो इतने पढ़े लिखे हो, तुमको 4 लाइन नहीं याद होती है क्या? उसको भी लिखना पड़ता है क्या?" So whenever we tried to note down a composition, he would
Hmm.
say, "Well, I remember thousands of compositions. I don't write them down. It's
Yeah.
it's a it's a process of internalization that makes you memorize the rules, and then make the grammar and the vocabulary of Hindustani music your own." But as we started going towards an age where computers, where internet technology came, I never had a computer. And I remember that I would be completely full of awe. I come from a generation where, you remember those big boom boxes that people used to have, those cassette recorders and
Yes,
players, where
yes,
there used to be two cassette, and you could, you had a tuner in it, and you had a, and those were, pieces of art that we used to keep in our homes and cover with a cloth because they were so important to us.
right.
And so, learning how to deal with new technology, which makes that technology completely obsolete today,
Hmm.
I have learned as an observer. I was merely an observer. I was watching people use internet technology. And of course, there were friends and, wonderful people who helped me learn. But I was an observer to that. I was not participating in that, thinking I don't know how to use this.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
slowly over the years, from an observer, I also became from a silent, non participative observer. I have become a learner, and I'm trying to see how all of this that is available, all the gadgets, all the technology that is available to us today, how I can use it and yet not become a complete slave to all of them. So my acoustic tanpuras are very much in place. They are looked after. They are playing well. They are maintained well. I don't get, say, okay, now I don't use any tanpuras any longer, so let me just do away with them. But
Hmm.
I also use a tanpura and a tabla app. So I think these are the ways in which you can observe things and slowly start learning and become more participative and more involved and engaged in using all of various aspects of technology.
Right. Great, great to hear the difference. And I mean, there's one thing which we can all connect to when you mention using technology and not becoming a slave to it. I'm not sure how many of us are winning that battle right now. Uh,
Yes.
uh, let's just move on. I have a very interesting question now from one of our audiences. This is a question by Suraj Bhardwaj. He wants to know: does your mood define the rag that you plan to sing or you sing during a concert, or is it the other way around? Do you sing a rag and you eventually enter into that mood zone that you want to be in, you aspire to be?
Well, the choice of a rag for a particular concert is determined by many things. If I happen to be, let's say, not the opening act in a festival,
Hmm.
then I have to consider what the artists before me have presented, and present something that is not similar and certainly not identical to the rag that they have presented earlier. Even though in Hindustani classical music, two different renditions of the same rag will be quite different. So I think all of us learn a certain number of rags, and from those rags, there are a certain short list with which we are even more familiar than the others that we have learned.
Okay.
And yeah, and we tend to fall back on those depending on the time of day, depending on the amount of time that we're the duration of a concert, and also you know who has performed before us. In some situations it may be a concert where there is a theme. So if, let us say, we are doing a concert of only malhars, then in a sense the parameters are already defined for us. We have to choose malhars. So it is from a kind of a data bank of rag malhar, the various varieties of malhars, and also the many compositions that we have learnt in each of those, that we have to
Hmm.
pull out something that we feel will be suitable. But this becomes more or less, I would say, this does not require a great deal of um, you know too much of planning, because as I said, there are certain rags with which we are more familiar. We tend to fall back on those, and we tend to use this beautifully energizing, evergreen, refreshing quality of Hindustani music to make sure that the rendition of a rag we have sung many times does not sound cliched, does not
Hmm.
sound
Hmm.
overused, does not sound repetitive.
Right, right, right. And in fact, I have so many questions coming in, and by the nature of the questions, I can uh, confidently say these are all fans who constantly listen to your music and enjoy the serenity around it. Vigyesh Kamath asks, and Namaste Shubhaji, Having learned from various maestros like Ramashri Jhaji, maestros like Kumar Gandharvji, how do you manage to culminate all their styles and come out with something that you can call it your own, without being a copy paste job, and giving it a flavor which is unique to you?
Hello, Vignesh. Vignesh is himself a student of music, and has I've had the opportunity of having him accompany me as well. So, hi,
Oh,
Vignesh.
wonderful. Oh, you know
Very
him then.
yes, yes, and yes, it's a very good question, and one that I really don't have a very easy answer to. First of all, I have to say that if I have been able to assimilate and to bring into my music the influence of many great masters, it is because I have inherited from those wonderfully generous teachers this ability, this eclectic quality. So, all of the people, many of the people that I learned from, were themselves very keen to learn from different maestros, to gather, to compile, and to adapt various things. So, it is
Hmm,
from them and through their teachings that I have even been encouraged to do that. Otherwise, it is possible that an ustad or a guru may say, no, please follow strict gharana guidelines. And in that case, you may not find it easy to listen to other forms of music, to other styles of music. So I think the encouragement first comes from my gurus, who were very clear that you must listen, you must assimilate, you must adapt from other gayakis as well. Also, this is an ongoing process. It doesn't happen either in a day, and it is not completed at any point of time.
correct.
So, you may learn a particular rag from a certain master.
Hmm,
Let's say I learn a rag from Pandit Jitendra Bhisheki, and he teaches me how to elaborate on that rag.
hmm,
Now, at that point of time, I follow his instructions, but over the years, I continue to make friends with that rag. That's the way I would describe it. I keep going back to that rag. I keep trying to look for more of its special areas, special phrases, special expression in that rag. And it's an ongoing process. You achieve something, sometimes you go back a little, so not always is it progress in this matter. You may start aging, your voice may start aging, and then you have to have new adjustments to your make new adjustments to your music. So it's an ongoing process, but I think primarily this is possible when your gurus and when your seniors are encouraging and don't say, no, this is not a good idea.
hmm, hmm. Right, right. Uh, Continuing with the same thought, uh, there were years when you were a disciple to some of these very esteemed artists and gurus, and now you yourself are a teacher who's trained some of the most prominent young stars of today. Uh, do you feel training for the arts has integrated well into the overall education system, or do you feel people have to step out from their education comfort zone and pursue professions like arts and music today?
Once again, I don't want to sort of generalize, but I really feel that in India, arts education hasn't really been thought about as carefully, and certainly not implemented into mainstream school and college education.
Hmm,
Being an artist is still very much an adventure, and an adventure in which great deal of anxiety is caused. Um, we have, we constantly meet, and I'm sure all artists who are teaching will confirm what I'm saying, that we have young people from different parts of the country, from different parts of the world wanting to learn. But the kind of commitment that is required for any work that you do, for any field that you choose to specialize in, when it comes to making that commitment, unfortunately, with music, it is a very risky situation.
hmm,
And
hmm,
we often find guardians becoming very, very anxious. For us as teachers, this is a moment of great, how should I say, it's a challenge for us to ensure that the student who comes to us feels that we are there with them. Yet at the same time, we cannot tell them to ignore their families and the anxieties of their families. And
true.
so I think, no, unfortunately, especially in mainstream school education, the arts have not been made a part of mainstream education. You learn maths, you learn science, you learn language, you learn history, geography, but who teaches you the arts? Usually, in most schools, arts are kept to the point, where you can, on let's say Independence Day or Republic Day, sing a few songs, or an annual day you can put up a great show, that too with a lot of preparation around the time that the annual day is happening. But a constant, sustained, vibrant interaction and an engagement with the arts
Hmm.
has not been planned, and it should be. It is the need of the hour if we want sensitive, um, compassionate, um, thinking people. I think an engagement and an involvement with the arts on a sustained basis is really, really absolutely essential.
Yes, yes, yes. I agree. I mean, it's unfortunate and a thought-provoking point you make. Something that we as the system and society should carefully act upon. Uh, let's just sort of take a 180-degree turn now from a very serious topic. Let's go back to the music. I continue to get demands. We have over 300 people watching us now,
Oh, how nice.
and people some people who listened to your earlier piece want another one if possible, something that's close to your heart. If I was to ask you that one piece that you sing when you're down or when you want to sort of keep your motivation levels high, that one piece, if you could just recite something.
I'd like to share a few lines of a piece written by a very great shair, Sahir Ludhianvi ji. And
Hmm.
the tune was composed by my husband, Anish Pradhan. But it's
Okay.
a lovely song to sing at this point. It's a beautiful poem which says, आओ के कोई ख्वाब बुने कल के वास्ते, आओ के कोई ख्वाब बुने कल के वास्ते, वरना ये रात आज के संगीन दौर की डस लेगी जानो दिल को कुछ ऐसे के जानो दिल ताउम्र फिर न कोई हंसी ख्वाब बुन सके, आओ के कोई ख्वाब बुने कल के वास्ते.
Wow, wow, that fit the mood right now. I mean, it could not have been any more perfect. The scene where we are right now, the situation we face right now, there's a lot of negativity around us. This is absolutely marvelous. The hope that you're trying to bring out with these lines, Sahir ji and Anish ji through the music. I mean, I'm sure it's resonated with everyone. It sure has with me. It will
It's
stay with.
actually Sahir Saab's wonderful. And if you look at Sahir Saab's life, it was full of many challenges. And yet he wrote these beautiful lines, which we are all repeating in this Sangeen Dor.
Hmm. That's true. That's true. But lines like these will always keep ourselves motivated and our hopes high. The morning is just around the corner. Perfectly said. Uh, I keep getting questions. In fact, I thought, why not just keep asking questions from the audience? Audience, people are happy to talk to you. I'm getting so many questions. I have to unfortunately only pick some of them. Uh, there is one question which is slightly tricky, but I thought I'd still ask this to you. Nupur Tandon asks, what is your view about remixes?
Well, as a concept, a remix is not a bad idea. You see, what do we do today? We take a composition, a bandish that was very old, that has been around for, let's say, 200 years, and we sing that, interpret that in our own way. So, in a sense, it is an old composition which was composed by somebody else, but we are presenting it today in classical music. So in a sense, it is a reinterpretation. But what is important, I feel, and where a remix can go wrong is when we do not acknowledge the earlier composer. Suppose I were to take an old composition and say to you that, I'm a great composer, I made this composition. Now this has
Hmm.
become
Hmm.
mine. Or if I were to come to it with a sense of condescension, where I say, oh, these 200-year-old compositions are sitting over there, and I am making them popular by singing them today. There is an air of condescension there. I
Right.
think as responsible people, we need to say that, okay, this is an old composition. It was made by so and so. If we know the source, if we do not know the source, we can still say where we found it from.
Hmm.
Who gave
That's
it
true.
to us,
That's
where
true.
we listened to it, and say, I'm sorry, I don't know the source, but this is where I got it from. I felt the urge to sing it, and I'm singing it. So I think a remix in principle is really not a bad idea. Why should a good piece of music not stay alive in the voices and in the music of new, young, current generation artists? Why should
True.
it not remain alive? But the original creators must be given due respect. And the way we can do that is just basic courtesy. We should acknowledge them.
Right. Right. It's a very pertinent point. So, uh, it's a great concept, but retain the authenticity, give the right credits, honor the right people, out of courtesy, out of respect. I mean, it's a great
Yes.
point. All budding music composers of today can learn something from this, I'm sure. Let's just move on to the last section. We've had a really interesting 35-40 minutes. Close to 400 people have already watched us. I'm sure much more are watching us right now. Now, Renuka Sharma, she has an interesting question for you. I assume she is a singer, and she asks, "What would be the things you would recommend every budding singer to follow day to day?"
Actually, first of all, I would say that uh, believe in your guru and follow the directions given by your guru.
Hmm,
Because, in the Indian tradition, and particularly if you're doing traditional music, the training that you're getting is highly customized for you. It's not a mass kind of pedagogy that is being given to you. Each artist, every guru teaches in a unique way, customizes the training style for a particular individual student. So the
hmm,
best thing would be to believe in your guru, and hopefully the guru too will allow you to ask questions. If you're a singer, as you asked about budding singer, then I think also one of the things that you need to sort of perhaps remember is that your voice, you are first a student of voice. And so even before you become a playback singer or a classical singer or a Sufi singer or a pop singer, you must uh, keep examining your voice and learning more about your voice, and that only you can do, because you will know each time there is any slight problem with your voice. So you need to really keep watching your breath and your voice all the
hmm.
time. That is a second important thing. Guru, watching your voice and making sure that you know what are the strengths and limitations of your voice. And the third thing that I feel is very important is that you need to be a student of life. Because what do you sing about? You sing about life. You sing about the joys, the
Right.
sorrows, the challenges of life. And if you don't know what's happening all around you, if you don't sympathize with people who are suffering all around you, if you don't say even a hello to your neighbor, if you don't look out and watch the big tree outside your balcony and see how the leaves make music for you, then in a sense you're really limiting your experience. The
Hmm.
more you become a student of life, the more you will sing about life. And I think all of those things are very important.
Great, great. So, I mean, couple of very important points, and not just for budding singers, but I think becoming a student of life, I'm sure, will bring about a positive change in everyone's life, regardless of the profession. Uh, and couple of more questions before we wrap up. Jogendra Tully mentioned some time ago. You
Oh,
released Looking for Miss Sargam some time back.
yes.
What is the next? Are you writing something? Do you have something on your mind you plan to start soon?
Yes, I'm working on another book, but this time it's not fiction. It's looking at the my own experience with popular music, and it's a personal account of my experience with working in popular music and non-classical music. So I'm working on that, and I hope um, that readers will find it interesting.
Right. So, judging by the comments, people are already waiting for it. And Ankita Gureja asks, she wants to know, Shubhaji, what is the right age to start classical music training as a child? A lot of young parents have this question in mind. What is the right age to introduce some sort of art, whether it be classical music or any other art form, uh, to their kids?
Well, I would say really that leave alone formal lessons. As parents, as young parents, if you can start playing music to your children right from the time that they come into your life, I think it would be a great idea, because then the child knows that music is an important part of your life. Formal training, I think, needs to be started. Normally, people start around the age of 5 or 6 years. That's the usual age at which people start sending their children for formal music lessons. And I think that's a good age, because children have already gotten used to a school routine. They're not so tired from that school routine, that yet another class at the end of coming home and doing homework. It's if you have a good teacher, and if your home respects the arts, then you will find children really waiting for that music lesson as well. So I think, actually, you can start learning music at any age, but 5 or 6 is a good time to start.
Right, right, right. I have one more question, which is
Do I have
not
your
directly.
permission? Do you have I have your permission to share with our audience today about a small campaign that we are doing? If you permit that, I would be very happy to tell them about it.
Please, by all means, we'd love to
So
hear.
I'd like to share with all viewers that, along with me, 5 other artists and arts practitioners have started a very small campaign called ADA, Assistance for Disaster Affected Artists. And what we're
Hmm.
doing is that, because there are several artists in India who will be very severely impacted by COVID 19, the lockdown, and the recession. So, what we are doing is to raise funds to reach to 100 artists in 10 states of the country. These 100 artists will be selected by 10 arts organizations, each working in different states and
Hmm.
working at the grassroots level. And what we have planned to do is that, if we are able to raise the funds, we will start giving 5,000 rupees a month for the next 6 months, starting from May to October 2020. We will give 5,000 rupees a month to each family of a particular artist. And I'm very happy to share with you that, just with about 150 supporters, we have reached a figure of almost 15 lakhs. That's still not the 50% mark, but I know that there are a lot of art lovers and music lovers and people who care for the arts, and I urge them to join us in this very tiny, humble effort of ours.
Yes, I mean, uh, it's by no means tiny. It's a very noble initiative. And on behalf of the foundation, I request all our audiences and viewers to also uh, consider this as one way of contributing whatever small amount you can to keep supporting the art fraternity. It's a wonderful thing you're doing, ma'am. It will be a privilege for everyone to be connected with this. Uh, I am now sort of wrapping this up. Uh, just to go back to the current circumstances, fortunately, unfortunately, we cannot really get rid of it anytime soon. Uh, what would be that one advice you would give to people, not just to artists, but to people who follow you as a person, to navigate the current challenges, staying home, or not being able to socialize, not being able to pursue their talents. What is that one advice you have for everyone listening?
You know, one that there is no, I mean, if there is the will to really overcome something, I think we can all put our heads together and overcome that. I really feel that there's no point in sort of fretting and saying we're in a lockdown, we don't have this, we don't have that. Considering the risk of really the risks involved in going out, I
Hmm.
would say let's pause to, to look within, to see what we can do in our own small way, and to look at various ways in which we can overcome the challenge. And above all, don't believe in rumors, please, and
Yeah,
don't
right.
forward rumors. Wait for official news. Wait for news that can be validated. And I'd also like to say that this is a time to thank a lot of people. You know, we are very many of us are very lucky, but I would like to really thank all those doctors and nurses and health workers who are out there, and many of them have been infected, and many of them
Hmm.
are still, you know, so aware of their duties as health workers that it really moves me to see what they have to say in they're braving all odds. So I think let's all join hands and say thank you to them in a big, big way.
Yes, yes, you're absolutely right. So, a couple of lessons for all of us. Let's pause. Let's relook at what we are currently doing. Take all the precautions, like you just mentioned, and most importantly, a thankful extend thanks to people who are in the front line, serving tirelessly, getting infected, also putting their families at risk. Thank you, Shubhaji. It's been an amazing conversation. Judging by the comments, people have thoroughly enjoyed it, and I would also like to thank all our audiences who joined us, who put your questions. I hope you have a lot of takeaways from this conversation. I have, in fact, I've got a couple of pages full of learning from my conversation with you. It was an absolute honor to have you with us.
Thank you, Nikhilji, and thank you everybody who joined this. I'm really truly grateful. And stay well, stay home.
Yeah, sure, sure, sure. All right, guys. That's it for tonight. We're signing off. Until next time, keep following the Shivnadu Foundation page for the next episodes of the conversation series. Thank you. Good night.